Storm, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Why don't I start with a little icebreaker question? Would you like that?
No.
Can I? Anyway.
Go ahead.
You have he, she, they in your pronouns on your Instagram. What does that mean?
Well, first of all, get off my Instagram.
That's how I found you, babe.
Honestly. So, look, to be honest, my pronouns, I would say, refer to gender fluidity.
Mm-hmm.
I think my energies are very fluid, and my pronouns are very fluid. So I would say that I identify as quite fluid. I always have. I have a very feminine presence, and I'm quite content with that. And I guess that's where my pronouns kind of stem from.
Gender fluidity, huh?
Yeah. You know, it's actually a oh no, I was going to say it's a perfume fragrance name, but it's gentle fluidity. So disregard. That's a plug, by the way. Sponsored. No, I'm kidding.
All right. Well, when did you discover this sort of gender fluidity?
I think the idea around discovery is a little bit hard, because it's like, you know, when do you know? Like you just kind of know. Yeah, I've always just been really chill when it comes to, you know, my gender expression, my gender identity, and whatever's made me feel most comfortable is where I've kind of sat. Yeah, so there was never really a moment of discovery. It was, I guess, a bit of a realization that I'm so fluid and I'm just so easy with whatever works. There's definitely things that don't necessarily work, and I'm like, oh, it's kind of ick, don't do that. But yeah, I'm just such a, you know, my soul and my being is so fluid. So that's kind of where I sit with pronouns.
Interesting.
Yeah.
He, she, they. And what if someone gets it wrong?
Well, can you get it wrong?
Yeah, actually, that is a good question. That is the question.
So am I asking
because it's
you,
everything. What are my pronouns? Oh, I don't even like being asked my pronouns. Is that weird?
No, I mean, it's not. If that's your preference, we can just use your name. That works.
Yeah, well, I like being referred to as she. I just don't like saying I like to be referred to as she. I like it when people assume my pronouns.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which kind of goes against the whole philosophy of like gender and stuff, which we could get into, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, I think it's just it's what makes you comfortable, right? And if that's someone assuming your gender identity, then that's amazing. And I'm happy to continue to assume that if you like.
Please do.
Right after you tell me your pronouns, of course.
Okay, well, we're here today because I met you at a wedding, a gay wedding,
yes.
might I add.
Yes.
And you came up to me and you started talking to me about God before I had even mentioned, like, I'm a Christian. And I just found it fascinating. And you're like, oh my God, are you guys like all right with? And I was just like, yeah, keep going. I want you to keep talking. Yeah. And here we are. Now I want you on my podcast to keep talking.
Yeah.
But why don't we start with your sort of upbringing? You were raised in a sort of Catholic religion, would you say? Talk to me about that.
So my religion is it's very varied. I mean, my grandparents are one side. My grandfather is of one religion, and my grandmother's of another religion. So, I mean, it definitely wasn't you know, I would say raised in a cult or anything like that. That certainly wasn't the case. But we definitely had a lot of values in terms of the household that we were raised in. My nan is, I think is it Methodist? Is that the religion?
Methodist. I think that's a denomination of Christianity.
Cool, slay. Well, my nan is Methodist, and my grandfather is Catholic. And essentially we were raised in that household with my grandparents, which kind of, you know, was always really great for us. We had a lot of those values and beliefs and, you know, drilled into us in a way, but in a good way. I think it's really, really important for who we are nowadays, you know, my siblings as well. But it wasn't always that way. You know, we weren't always in, you know, a household where we were safe and comfortable and looked after. That was only, you know, the better parts of our childhood. But the worser parts, we were still quite there with God, and religion was still very present in our lives. And I wouldn't say in a way of, oh my goodness, we were going to church every single night, or we had, you know, the most incredible relationship with religion. But there was definitely I guess, a bit of a saving grace for me and my siblings when it came to religion. So, yeah.
And talk to me about coming out in a religious sort of household.
So, I mean, again, my grandparents, obviously, coming out to them was fresh. They are a little bit older, so they're of a very different generation. I think that generation had definitely experienced people in life that were queer or part of the community, but never personally. They never had any real big personal experiences with it. I mean, in exception for my oldest cousin, she's queer, but no one kind of direct relation, children, that kind of thing. So I think it was very, very big for my grandparents. My siblings were incredible. It was almost like they knew. They probably knew before I did in hindsight. But my grandparents were, I actually remember when I told my nan reacted a little bit, initially she was like, it wasn't really the reception that I anticipated. But I can't know what I did anticipate. It was just very much like, that's not what I was expecting. And I had a moment where I took some time and I stayed at a friend's. But, my grandparents essentially became like my biggest advocates to this very day.
Wow.
Yeah, like hardcore, biggest fans. Yeah.
Yeah, lucky you.
Well, yes, there's that.
Talk to me about, so I explained, you came up to me at this wedding talking about God. What does that mean for you? What is your relationship with God like today? And would you still associate it with the Catholic religion?
Yeah, so I think obviously, religions vary a lot in terms of their beliefs and, I guess the core beliefs of their religions. For me, God is God. For me, my relationship with God is between them and I. It is not between anyone else. It's not between a church. It is not between, an organization. It's between my God and who I have always known to protect me and be there for me in that way. My Creator, my Father.
Okay, so I'm interested, you sort of have a relationship with God.
Yeah.
But if the basis idea of God of something, would you say it is the Christian God, Jesus?
So for me, and I guess the belief that I've always known is that they are, it's effectively one being. I know that varies throughout different religions.
The Trinity. Yep.
Yeah, and it varies. But for me, it's one being in different forms. And I believe that that's correct of my, religion that I've always known as well. That's religion essentially for me and my Father. I guess the meaning of Jesus to me and God to me, is quite captivating. I think that it's, the levels it speaks in my everyday living and my life that religion has for me is massive, really, really massive. I remember as a child, religion was always really, really big for us as kids. We knew, and to be really, really frank with you, we didn't have the greatest upbringing with our parents, hence why we did live with our grandparents. And it was quite, I guess, a traumatic experience, and as it would be for a lot of children. But I remember we used to head down to the Baptist church, me and my siblings, on a Sunday. We were very, very young. And it was always such a good experience because we would get food and we would eat and, we would learn about Bible verses. And that was always really, really impactful for us. And, we'd go home and I remember I came home with my first Bible that I got, which was the King James version. And I still have it to this very day. The pages are all on the outside of them, like the gold kind of aesthetic that it has. It's incredible. And I've got certain passages in there from when I was very young that I'd highlighted. Please don't ask me what they are because I have no idea. But yeah, for us, religion was always very safe. And it gave us a reason to believe that we had more in life and that there was a path for us and that we had a greater good. And that we, everything we were doing had meaning.
A lot of gay people will say they have religious trauma or religion has made them feel unsafe. So it's interesting hearing you say you sort of had a good experience with religion.
And I think the key word is there, the religion. You know, we're talking about churches and communities and organizations and people that a lot of the community has had problems with. And it has happened, and it continues to happen every single day. And is God liable for that? I'm not sure. But we do know that the people perpetuating that idea are liable for that. The churches, the individuals, the communities that perpetuate this idea of that if you are queer, if you're lesbian, gay, trans, bisexual, if you are a part of the community, then you must be condemned, and that is not, the way of God. But who says that? Because I don't have any recollection of ever knowing that God has said that.
Yeah, I suppose, I get it all the time, right? The Bible verses, those 6 clobber passages, or this, it talks about the man and the woman will become one flesh, and then Christians will propagate the idea that homosexuality is a sin. How do you sort of reconcile that doctrine or ideology and separate your relationship to God from that?
Well, what isn't a sin? Really?
I suppose I would agree with that. And that's personally how I reconcile myself to God, is I'm like, man, people, or it's kind of laughable when people are like, oh, being gay is a sin. And I'm like, man, you should just see the state of my heart. Like, I'm so much worse than you know. Thank goodness I have a savior.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I use.
Yeah. I think, like a massive misconception, right? People are just so happy to put it on you like that. And we see it all the time. It's so common. But I think acknowledging that we are quite literally human, and running back to Jesus died on the cross for our sins. That we are going to make mistakes. We are human beings. Again, not to say that being a part of the community, gay, queer, trans, bisexual, any part of the community is a mistake, or needs to be condemned. But I guess reverting back to what you'd said around it being a sin, like what isn't a sin? It is what it is. You're living life, and if that's how people want to perceive you and your lifestyle and the way in which you're born and continue to live your life, then that's okay. Let them perceive it that way. I have one being that can call judgment on my life, and it's sure as hell not Sandy, Miss Queen, that's been to church every Sunday for the last 40 years. Prior to that was, I don't know, probably running around the streets drinking every night, I'm not going to let her or anyone cast doubt on my religion, my faith with God, and my relationship because I'm gay. Like, what that doesn't make sense, right? It's like, who are you, Sandy?
This is true. It's such a personal thing, a relationship with God. So you believe you can have a relationship with God and be gay?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you definitely wouldn't make sense not to.
What does a relationship with God even look like to you?
Well, God makes no mistakes, right? So here I am, doing what I'm doing, thriving, succeeding, living my best life, seeing people around me happy, giving what I can to everyone where necessary. God makes no mistakes.
Do you believe God loves you?
Of course. Who couldn't? Let me.
I think about that conceptually. It's because he's an intangible being.
Right.
How does one feel the love from God? I know what it feels like to feel love from my peers or a partner, because they're physically there. I experience love by how people treat me, their actions. But since God is like intangible, how the heck? Yeah, I suppose, how do we know or experience love from him? Big question, but I'm interested in how you perceive that.
Yeah, it's a big fucking question.
Put me on the spot there, Mal.
Yeah, honestly. Look, I think for me, it's that I'm here, that I'm present. I'm able to do the work that I do. I'm able to love the people around me that I love, continue to care for them the way I do, see the world in the way that I see it. I'm continuously gifted with the most incredible gifts, not only in terms of my personal experiences and traumas, everything that I've been through in life. I wouldn't be where I am if none of that happened to me, and that's really the grand scheme of things, right? We look at things and we're like, oh, but if God was so real, if he was so incredible, he wouldn't have put me through half of what he did. Well, but you're here, you've got these experiences, and for me personally, The love that he has shown me has certainly been education in life, the ability to I guess have all the traumas that I wouldn't take back for the life of me. I really wouldn't, despite the fact that I have an incredible therapist, and I will probably see a therapist for a long time coming. For me, I wouldn't be doing half of what I'm doing if it wasn't for the lessons that I had as a very, very young child. And now, I look forward to the future, and I pray every single night. It's not a night that I miss.
What is praying? What does that look like? How do you pray?
For me, it's I guess it depends on the day. Some days I'm like, oh my goodness, I feel like shit. I have no energy. And it's sometimes, in those days it does feel like a bit of a chore. It's like, all right, I just wanted to check in, a bit like a text, like just double checking and everything's good. No, but for me, it's very much, I always say thanks. Yeah, I've lived another day. I've had another experience with, the incredible people around me, and all people around me are phenomenal. All my people, my closest friends, my family, my team at the clinic. I'm so lucky to have everyone I do around me. And they're all in my life for a reason. I'm aware of that. And I'm constantly saying thank you. Thank you for the blessings that you continue to give me, whether it's food on the table, whether it's my ability to continue to bless others, make other people smile. But don't get it twisted. I ask, when I want something, I ask for it. And the reason I do that is because I know if anyone can do it, it's him. Everything that I have today is essentially because of God.
But you don't believe you could just love people without God?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think humans have emotion, right? It's there for a reason. But I think in the depths that I'm allowed to, and that I continue to care, and my incredible amount of empathy, and all of those kinds of things, definitely for me it makes sense that that's God loving me so that I can continue to give that to other people. And I'm not going to say that without him I wouldn't be able to love people, because damn, I definitely would, but there's no me without my God. So yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so you've founded the Identity Clinic. Yeah, what is the Identity Clinic?
Yeah, so the Identity Clinic is a psychology organization. We're a psychology organization that works and has a very special focus on the queer community. So the LGBTQIA plus community. We work a lot in the queer and neurodivergent space. That is our niche. All of our clinicians are queer. All of our clinicians are neurodivergent. An exception for one. But they are all queer. We're a queer and neurodivergent-led organization. That's something we like to flex because it is lived experience.
I'm just you founded a company, though. That's amazing.
Well, there's that, yeah.
Yeah, what led you to found this company? The Identity Clinic.
My best friend, that will be my best friend for years to come, he transitioned from, I guess it was a big thing for him. He essentially transitioned, and I saw that there was a really big gap in the community, in the mental health space, in the public sector, for people of queer community. There was really no support, and the support there was very, very little. We really don't have, the people there on the ground doing the work with the people that need it most. Our community at the moment, the queer community, is said to make up around, I think it was 13.1% of Australia's population. Fact check me, please. I believe the La Trobe University study done, Trans Pathway 2022, indicated that 13.1% of Australia's population was queer, which would indicate that, well over 3.5 million Aussies. And that's a lot of people to service, right? Noting that we have 27 million in Australia, according to census. I think that was 2022 as well. It's a lot of people to service, and noting that there's very, very minimal services for my community was really, really alarming. And in that moment, my best friend, I saw what he was going through, what he was experiencing. And really, he was a big part of the foundation of why I decided to start an organization that focused on trans, gender diverse, non-conforming, and the rest of the queer community, because the support is required. Why is it not occurring? We're in 2024, and we've got how many services? It's a bit of a piss take if you ask me. So yes, we started, and it was a little bit of a slow start, and we built up, and now we're servicing the nation. So we work as a national provider. We have physical presence in Brisbane, Sydney, and Melbourne. So the whole East Coast, we have a physical presence, both in practice.
This has happened over a year and a half.
Well, I would like to say that it was actually really only from January that it started kicking.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you've got offices in all these different locations.
So we have shared spaces all along the East Coast.
But providing services to young people in the community. The LGBTQIA.
So our age range is everyone.
Yeah.
So there's no real age range.
But it's for LGBT people.
Correct.
Okay.
So the queer community, LGBTQIA plus community, is the only community that we essentially service under intervention. So providing one-on-one psychology, parental services, so parental counselling. We know that parents are a huge part of transitions for their kids. And we say kids, children, makes them sound like, little people, but no, they're not necessarily. They could be adults. So yeah, we offer quite a few different services. So we have that. We have a mental health accredited social worker. So they work a little bit more with, the NDIS space, homeless community, clinical intervention. So, the intervention element, and therapy, in addition to case management. We do a lot with youth services, work with a few different companies. We do so much, honestly. Rattling off, we do groups. We also do assessment and diagnoses. So of neurodivergent individuals that, want to look for an assessment and diagnosis. So if they are ADHD, autistic, or fall under the umbrella, they can be diagnosed. There's so many.
It sounds like a successful company.
Oh, well, your words, not mine.
Well, I've heard you before attribute the success of what's happening in the company to God. And I sort of want to delve into that a bit further. Your relationship with God, you're building the company, you believe He's in everything you do. How does that work?
My company is extremely successful at the point we are, for one reason and one reason only. And that's because God allowed me the opportunity to build this for my community. And I know people are probably thinking, wow, well, that's so weird, because for generations and generations we've been oppressed and, tormented by these religious organizations and communities, which has definitely gone on. It still happens, and it's ridiculous. And those organizations and groups and churches need to be condemned. And they don't. They are protected in most instances, which is horrific. But I'll condemn them. I'm here to do that. And that's because it can't continue to happen. We're talking about trauma that continues to take place in people's lives because of things like this. I can't remember the exact date, but I believe that there was a conversion therapy was only recently just banned in one of the East Coast states. I don't know if it was New South Wales or ACT, but very, very fresh. And it's like, what, conversion therapy? 2024? And that's just been banned? Like, who are we? Pauline Hanson? Like, shouldn't this have been done like 20 years ago? Like 100 years ago? Like, why is this occurring? So yeah, it's our mission is very clear. And the ability that we keep being given is by God, for me. And I've always said, the success that our organization has, I pray every single night. Every single night before I go to sleep, I pray. And I say, like, I thank you for this opportunity constantly. And I don't not pray, because it's a little bit obsessive of me, and maybe it is my OCD, but I'm like, if I stop praying, the company will all fall apart.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. I was like, how do you know it's God? But it's like, if you're praying and then it's happening, you're linking the two together.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Asking you may receive, I suppose. I mean, look, what I'm saying is that the ability that I continuously am given, there's this power to continuously get up every single day and put effort into this company. the love, the care, the resources, the education, my clinicians, absolutely killing it, pumping it. Like, I am so proud of my team. They are fucking phenomenal. I don't think I've ever worked with a team quite like them. And I've worked with quite a few teams, and this bunch is I dig them. They are the bee's knees. And that all comes from me being like, you know what, let's do this. Without my team, I don't have a company.
Do they know you're attributing the company's success to God?
So all of my clinicians, like, I wear my cross. My clinicians know that. Most of them are very familiar with, I guess, how I was raised. All of my clinicians are familiar with the fact that, I believe in God. I don't go to church. I don't know, but it's not a conversation we've had, to be really, really frank with you. We haven't gone, oh my goodness, what are your beliefs on God? And that's probably more so due to the fact that my relationship between God and I is between God and I. I know them when I'm in situations like this, and when I'm in a situation to be able to talk about our experience and our organisation, that I'll always praise, the high heavens for what we've been given. And some people are like, wow, that sounds nutty. That sounds so crazy. But it does. You sit there and you think about it. I prayed, and I was, given the ability to get up and keep going and keep fighting, start this company, and do everything that we've done in the very small amount of time that we've done it. Because separating myself from the church and the idea of religion and this ideology, and acknowledging that my relationship with God is literally my relationship. That's it.
Talk to me about separating yourself from the church. You obviously believe you can have a relationship with God outside of the church. I suppose, what would you like other people to know about that? Because people amalgamate the two. They think God and church is one thing.
I mean, it's a little bit like people often think that when you see someone, they're overweight, it's because they eat too much cake. It's not always the case. There's chronic illnesses, there's conditions. It's, I guess, the analogy that I'm giving you is that people don't always look at things in two separate lights. We can be quite narrow-minded as humans. That's what we can be. And we see one thing, we just assume that it means everything. For me, my relationship with God is very, very separate to church. I don't necessarily even believe in the idea of what we call church, what we know today as church. I again, like I've said earlier, I believe that the vast majority of them need to be condemned for the actions and the things that take place within the churches. I don't like the way that they're allowed to. They don't have to disclose things. For example, in the Catholic Church, if you confess, the disclosure levels in Australia are very minimal. I hate that. You can go and talk to a therapist and tell them you've done something horrible, and we have to report that. But if you go and talk to a priest, it's just talking to a priest, which is alarming. I think for me, religion is very, very separate, and I can't even exactly put my finger on it and say exactly how I did it. I think in time you acknowledge it. If you want something enough, you will do it. If your beliefs of religion are your beliefs and you want to separate them, then you will. And that's what I did, because I don't agree with churches. I don't agree with the vast majority of the actions and things that take place in the churches, and the constant church communities condemning people outside of the community. Outside of the religious communities. I think it's gross. I think it's so disgusting. It's religion for me is supposed to be harmony. Is supposed to be faith and love and acceptance, whereas religion, in most instances, is perpetuating war and acts of violence and horror, which is not what religion is at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's I said this before, like, people commit like a lot of evil in the name of religion. I would almost argue some of the most evil actions in the world are committed in the name of religion. I mean, all different ones. You spoke to me the other day about an experience you had when you walked into church. It was Hillsong Church?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Oh. So we did speak about it. I mean, I'm glad you fact-checked me a little bit. So there's that. But I did. I have a dear friend that you're obviously familiar with, and it was a night where I was just, I wasn't feeling fabulous, and I had been feeling like I wanted to go to church for so long. I was like, I just need to go back. Like, I want to feel like I'm in the arms of God. I want to feel in the presence. And I was so anxious. I was so anxious. And I hadn't been in such a long time. And it was because I felt, although who I was as a person was not accepted within the house of Jesus, right? Which is very, very sad for anyone, because like it's supposed to be love.
But when you walked in there, did you felt unaccepted by people?
I felt unaccepted before I even got there. I felt the idea of going to church, being someone like myself, and I was dressed very similar to how I'm dressed now. I wasn't overly feminine. I wasn't overly masculine. I was just dressed nice. I think I looked quite pretty. And I went in, and people, the looks that you get, it's like, what are you like? It's and I think to myself, Sandra, when you work it out, let me know, because I have no idea. But it's sad because it's meant to be a place of worship and a place of being embraced and supported and loved, and all of those really incredible emotions and feelings that you're supposed to have as a human, and it is so said that you have in the house of God. But that wasn't the case. I felt quite anxious, and I felt very judged. We went and got some food afterward, and I discussed how with these two individuals that I'm friends with, that I wouldn't be returning probably again. And it gave me a lot of closure. I felt I needed that. I felt that it was a very, when I walked in, it was, there was the what's the smoke machines, how they pump the
haze? Is it haze machines?
It was very hazy. Yeah, it was very hazy, and it just kind of felt like you walked, toward a lake really early in the morning. There was a lot of haze, and it was just like, it just didn't feel right for me. The energy was just off, and I was just like, this doesn't feel holy to me. This feels rather quite the opposite. And maybe that's the idea of that specific church that I have already had experience with. Maybe it's the media. I can't say for certain what it was, but I didn't have a good idea of that organization when I was going there, the church. So that may have been, fuel to my anxiety a little. But yeah, it wasn't for me. Church isn't for me. Worship and God and holy places, like, that's for me. Like, I'm about that. Like, I fuck with that.
People would say a holy place is the church.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people in church that aren't very holy, are they?
I would agree, yeah.
So it's like, how is it, incredibly holy? And I'm not saying that people can't make mistakes to be.
It's within you. I mean, that's my belief. The Holy Spirit is within you.
Yeah, definitely. But I don't know. It just felt very, and I don't take this word lightly, but it just felt very devilish. Like, I just wasn't holy to me. And I didn't feel comfortable in the presence. I got home and I said a prayer and I said, thank you for, the experience of being able to go there tonight and the urgency that I felt within me to go. But it's not for me. And that doesn't tarnish my relationship with God at all. It takes no strength of that. But I just, especially being a part of the community that I'm a part of, at no fault of my own, it's my community. It's how I was born. It's who I am. I think, well, fuck you guys. You guys are the same people that perpetuate everything against my community, and the horrible things that are said and done. We had rallies on Oxford Street not all that long ago, religious organizations. And it's like, this is just so not holy of you guys, And God, God forbid you get to Judgment Day, because I won't judge you. I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to call you in, not call you out. But what I am here to do is say, have mercy on your soul by the time you come to that day, because we are here to accept, love, care, and lift people up. That hate speech and, the horrible things that are said about the community is not okay. And it harms people every single day. And not, I'm not here negating any other community. It's all religions around the world have the same, very similar outlooks on the queer community. And that's okay, have them, but also don't be running around in the dark, on Grindr, because it kind of perpetuates a really unrealistic idea of religion.
It's an interesting point there. Most religions, I suppose I'm only really thinking about Islam and Christianity, they have a thing against queer people,
Yeah.
gay people.
Like, there's definitely, there's definitely other religions that do, but it's alive and well, and it's happening every single day.
I suppose I'd like to sort of end on this. How would you like to see religion and the LGBTQIA plus community sort of connected together? How do you do that when religion has perpetuated so much hate against the community?
It's hard, right? Reconciliation is difficult.
Mm.
It's like, where do you start?
But with people, I suppose it's modeled through your behavior. Is maybe something I would say, like, I'm a lesbian, but I love Jesus. And people are like, oh, that's freaking weird. Yeah,
and 100% I agree. But, I think it's a conversation for these high churches. Conversation for this ideology that's continually being perpetuated. If it starts at the top and we're being taught these ways, such as conversion therapy, we look at Christianity, we're like, nope, they're a little bit more inclusive nowadays. They've got a queer flag on the window. Yeah, okay, but in the church down the road, you're still doing conversion therapy. So, I think we need to start there.
I suppose I would argue, we've come a long way. It seems like this is a big exodus from the churches today. And that's the whole argument you have, that you don't need God. You don't need to be in the church to be connected to God. As maybe just one idea I can think of.
Yeah. And I'd never encourage anyone to walk away from their faith. I think it's just finding faith within you rather than, concaving to the idea of everything around you being that, to be, religious and to have a relationship with God, you must go to the church and you must not drink and you must not have sex, oral sex, and you must, all those kinds of things in life that have these ideas around them from religion.
Yeah, and it's quite often I find it's all external behavior modification, right? It's, I'm a good person because I don't drink and I don't have sex, but it's like, but what's the condition of your heart like?
Yeah.
That always, seems to be more important for me.
And people make mistakes. People sin. This happens. You can't always please everybody. But being gay, being a part of the community, being queer, being trans, being bisexual, being, any part of the community is not a sin at all. You were born the way you were born. And as we always know, and if I can really kind of finish on anything, it's kind of, God makes no mistakes, right? So it would be a little bit hypocritical of the churches to continuously perpetuate the idea that God has made mistakes or that your choices are wrong. I can affirm and I can assure you that me being attracted to men is not my choice.
And it's
I would have it another way if I could.
Well, yeah, interesting. Oh, I suppose maybe that is a really good place to end. Thank you so much thanks so much for coming on the show today. And I suppose maybe we could end with what, where you see the Identity Clinic going and expanding.
Yeah. So the Identity Clinic is my whole heart. It really is. Like I have continuously said, my team are incredible, phenomenal. And, they really see our purpose, our values, our beliefs. They see everything that we run with. And without my team, there's no company. Without me, there's no company. But yeah, I think it's what we kind of see occurring in the future is I want to get bigger so that we can service more people, we can help more people, and provide those affirming care services. I see us with, numerous massive teams of practitioners servicing. I see the government getting involved at some stage and saying, we want to instate you guys as a specific organisation that works in this realm with this area of people. And, at the moment we only have psychs, mental health accredited social workers. What I would like to see is a multidisciplinary team of practitioners that can work with the queer community exclusively to provide affirming care. We want, to eventually, look into areas of providing and being able to support people getting into housing, queer accommodation, to minimise the queer homelessness that we see. But this isn't just Australia-wide. I have every intention for this to be New York, LA, London.
You got big dreams, huh?
Multinational, babe. Run it up. Yeah.
And God's put all that in your heart.
Yep. Yeah. There's a reason he didn't give me a plan B, and that's because plan A won't fail. Yeah.
I love that. All right. Well, that's, people want to sort of reach out to you and hear more about your story, or where can they find you?
Yeah. So you can head over to our website, which is just www.theidentityclinic.org. You can inquire with our incredible administration team. They are phenomenal. They'll get back to you really, really fast. It's a part of our service guarantee. So we love that. Jump over on our website, give us an email, shoot us a call. Like I said, our team is incredible, and I think you'll love them just as much as I do.
Cool. Thank you so much, Storm.
Thank you.